At exactly 01:43 hours local time, American surveillance satellites orbiting above southern Iran detected a sudden burst of movement near several hardened underground military facilities connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Massive blast doors opened deep inside mountain complexes. Transport vehicles began exiting tunnel systems simultaneously. Long convoys moved through desert highways under heavy security escort. And then, infrared imaging confirmed the detail that immediately alarmed Pentagon analysts. Missile launch crews were deploying. Within minutes, intelligence officers inside U.S. Central Command realized something deeply unusual was happening across Iran's strategic missile network. Because this was not one isolated movement, it was happening across multiple regions at the same time. Mobile launchers, command vehicles, fuel transports, radar systems, electronic warfare units. Everything appeared to be repositioning simultaneously, and inside military command. Rooms across Washington, one terrifying question immediately emerged. Why would Iran suddenly disperse large portions of its missile infrastructure unless Tehran believed a major confrontation could be approaching? At approximately 02:11 hours, additional reconnaissance platforms monitoring the Persian Gulf detected increased encrypted communications traffic between IRGC missile commands and coastal military sectors near the Strait of Hormuz. That detail intensified concern dramatically, because Hormuz remains one of the most strategically dangerous waterways on Earth. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through that narrow maritime corridor every single day. Any major military escalation there could instantly disrupt global energy markets and trigger worldwide economic shockwaves. And now Iran's missile infrastructure was moving again. To understand why this deployment shocked American military planners, you need to understand how Iran designed its entire modern deterrence strategy. For decades, Tehran understood it could never compete directly with American conventional military power. The United States possesses superior air power, superior naval capability, superior surveillance systems, superior satellite coverage, superior logistics. So Iran built an entirely different doctrine: asymmetric warfare, missiles hidden underground, mobile launchers constantly moving, drone saturation attacks, fast naval strike craft, electronic warfare. The objective was never to defeat America conventionally. The objective was to make any conflict so dangerous and unpredictable that outside powers would hesitate before escalating. And missiles became the center of that strategy. Thousands of them. Ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, anti-ship missiles, precision strike systems, mobile launchers capable of disappearing into tunnel complexes carved beneath mountains. This is why the Pentagon watches Iranian missile movements so closely. Because mobility equals survivability, and survivability equals deterrence. At 02:36 hours, analysts reviewing satellite imagery reportedly identified multiple transporter erector launcher systems dispersing away from fixed facilities toward concealed desert positions south of Shiraz and east of Bandar Abbas. That movement immediately raised alarm levels. Because dispersed launchers are far harder to target. They can fire quickly, relocate rapidly, hide inside tunnels, disappear beneath camouflage, and launch again before airstrikes arrive. This is exactly why Iran invested billions into what analysts now call missile cities. Entire underground networks, hidden command centers, buried launch chambers, protected storage tunnels. Some facilities reportedly extend deep beneath mountains specifically designed to survive sustained bombing campaigns. And tonight, many of those systems appeared active. At the same time, another dangerous development emerged across the Gulf. American destroyers operating near Hormuz reportedly shifted into elevated missile defense posture, while airborne radar aircraft intensified surveillance flights along Iran's southern coastline. Carrier-based fighters entered higher readiness cycles. Reconnaissance drones expanded patrol patterns. Submarines operating beneath Gulf waters reportedly repositioned silently closer to strategic maritime corridors. The entire region was beginning to tighten militarily, because American planners understood something critical: missile dispersal operations often occur before escalation, sometimes as deterrence, sometimes as preparation, and sometimes simply because commanders fear imminent strikes. At approximately 03:02 hours, military analysts reviewing intercepted communications reportedly observed increasing coordination traffic between Iranian missile brigades and naval units connected to the Revolutionary Guard. That combination terrified strategists, because modern Iranian doctrine increasingly integrates missiles, drones, fast attack boats, submarines, and electronic warfare into one coordinated battlefield system. Not isolated attacks, but layered saturation. The idea is brutally simple. Overwhelm defenses through volume and chaos. Launch drones first, disrupt radar, jam communications, then fire missile salvos while naval swarm units pressure maritime traffic simultaneously. Inside the confined geography of Hormuz, that strategy becomes especially dangerous. At its narrowest point, the Strait of Hormuz compresses enormous amounts of military and civilian traffic into extremely vulnerable waters surrounded by Iranian missile territory. Tankers, destroyers, cargo vessels, reconnaissance aircraft, everything operates inside a tightly compressed battle space, which means reaction time during crisis becomes terrifyingly short, sometimes measured in minutes. At 03:31 hours, additional thermal imaging reportedly detected fuel loading operations near several mobile missile units positioned farther inland. That detail mattered enormously, because fueling activity often indicates launch readiness procedures. Now, intelligence analysts were racing to answer another critical question. Was Iran preparing for immediate operations? Or was Tehran simply trying to demonstrate survivability under pressure? The distinction itself became dangerously unclear. At the same time, Pentagon officials faced another major concern. Despite months of American and Israeli operations targeting Iran's military infrastructure, intelligence assessments increasingly suggested that large portions of Iran's missile network remained operational underground. This contradicted some earlier public claims suggesting Tehran's strategic capabilities had been almost entirely neutralized. In reality, underground missile systems remain extremely difficult to destroy completely, especially mobile launchers, especially hardened tunnels, especially systems capable of relocating constantly across vast desert terrain. And tonight, many of those systems appeared very much alive. At 03:58 hours, commercial shipping networks across the Gulf reportedly began adjusting routes, while insurance prices surged again amid fears of possible escalation near Hormuz. Global energy markets reacted nervously, because even limited missile activity inside the Gulf could create enormous economic consequences. Oil prices, shipping routes, energy infrastructure, financial markets, everything connected to Hormuz becomes vulnerable. During military crisis, this is why Iran's missile strategy matters far beyond the Middle East itself. At approximately 04:21 hours, additional surveillance aircraft reportedly observed increased activity near coastal anti-ship missile batteries positioned overlooking major maritime corridors. That immediately intensified Pentagon concern, because anti-ship missiles remain among the greatest threats inside Hormuz today. Defense officials increasingly view missile attacks, not naval mines, as the primary danger to Gulf shipping traffic. And unlike traditional naval confrontations, missile warfare inside the Gulf moves extremely fast. Launch, track, intercept, impact, sometimes within minutes. That leaves almost no room for diplomatic reaction once escalation begins. At the same time, electronic warfare activity across the region reportedly intensified. Several commercial vessels experienced intermittent navigation disruption, while military analysts monitored unusual electromagnetic interference patterns near portions of the Gulf. This is the invisible side of modern conflict: blind the sensors, jam communications, corrupt targeting systems, disrupt GPS, and suddenly even advanced militaries begin operating under uncertainty. Iran has invested heavily in exactly this kind of warfare, because asymmetric doctrine depends on confusion, and confusion slows stronger opponents. At 04:57 hours, Iranian state-linked media released new footage showing underground missile tunnels, launch crews, and mobile ballistic systems operating inside heavily fortified facilities. The message was unmistakable. Tehran wanted Washington to know its missile forces survived. More importantly, Iran wanted regional adversaries to believe retaliation capability remained fully intact. Strategic signaling was now happening openly. Because missile movements are not just military operations, they are psychological operations too. Every convoy sends a message. Every launcher movement. Every radar activation. Everything shapes perception. Fear, deterrence, uncertainty. And tonight, uncertainty was spreading rapidly across the Gulf. At the same time, American military planners remained extremely cautious, because cornered missile forces can become highly unpredictable, especially during periods of heavy surveillance and escalating pressure. History repeatedly shows that crises become most dangerous when both sides fear the other may strike first. This creates escalation instability. And escalation instability becomes especially terrifying when missiles, drones, submarines, cyber attacks, and electronic warfare systems all operate simultaneously inside compressed environments like the Persian Gulf. At approximately 05:36 hours, Gulf military bases across several allied nations reportedly elevated readiness levels, while additional missile defense systems entered reinforced monitoring posture. Patriot batteries, THAAD systems, naval interceptors, everything prepared for possible rapid escalation. Because if large-scale missile launches ever begin inside Hormuz, the consequences could spread globally within hours. Energy markets could panic, shipping routes could collapse, military alliances could activate, and the Middle East could spiral into wider regional war faster than diplomacy can contain. Tonight, Iranian missile launchers remain dispersed across southern Iran. American surveillance aircraft continue circling above the Gulf while submarines move silently beneath strategic waters. Radar systems monitor every movement, while satellites overhead track every convoy crossing the desert below. No missiles have launched. No war has officially begun. But something inside the region has clearly changed. Iran's missile command is moving again. The Pentagon is watching closely. And somewhere deep beneath the mountains of southern Iran, hidden launch crews may already be preparing for scenarios capable of reshaping the entire Middle East in a matter of hours.